That's good, Robbie. Thank you very much for your time, and especially during this time, that things are a little bit quiet for everyone, for coaches, for players, even for parents. I don't think for parents. Parents might be crazy at this point.
Parents are busy
I'm
homeschooling,
busy,
mate.
yes.
I know about it.
Yeah. Robbie, how you been during this time?
Good, mate. Just like everybody else, I'm just trying to get out of the house as much as I can, down to the park, have a kick around, or take my boys up to the park pretty much every day for a couple of hours, and um, yeah, just work on stuff that you probably don't get time to work on when you're training as a team. So they've improved their ball juggling and their passing and their first touch unbelievably well in the last couple of months. So
It's good.
and
How
mine as
old are
well.
they?
Mine as well.
You're two.
Yeah.
How old are they?
11. Yeah.
11 years old. So you focus on the core skill of them, but kind of in out of the context of the game because of course you got only one or two people.
Yeah.
So what else? It's about repetition in that one.
Yeah. 100% repetition, so that when eventually they get back to playing in a game, their first touch is going to be much better. Their passing and striking the ball is going to be much better with both feet as well, because they're not just working on their good foot. Yeah, just just coming up with little games to play with them, so that they sort of work on those different types of things.
I was
Uh,
gonna ask because do you coach them? Like, do you set up drills for them that are strict, or you base on just go and have some fun, but at the same time, play with the ball?
we generally do about half an hour of ball juggling, but we have like a tournament where there's a few other people that come up there, and obviously can only be in groups of two or your family groups. But so they stay in one area, we stay in another area, and we have like a little tournament where everybody starts at the same time, and the last person to drop it gets 3 points, second last 2 points, and one. So we have like a point system, and then we do a tournament where you've got to juggle the ball and not drop it, but you've got to run to one line and come back. So it's a distance-based thing, and whoever goes the furthest fastest wins, and you get a
Wins.
three. It's like a 3-2-1, and whoever gets the 10 points gets the gold medal. Because the Olympics was on, it's all about gold, silver, and bronze medals, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So we had the point system where the first person to get the 10 points, they got the gold medal, and after each day, it's like, did you win a gold medal today? Or I got a silver or bronze, and stuff like that. So it's just a bit of fun, and we do that, and then we go into a little passing game where you only allowed to have two touches and pass it back to each other over varying distances. And the harder you pass it, the better control the other person's got to have, and have just little tournaments like that. And we finish with like a shooting practice where we have 10 balls, and you got to hit the net on the full from about 12 yards. Just a little pop up 3 by 2 meter goal. Um, and Yeah, it just keeps them eager and keen to keep coming back and keep trying to see if they can get better. Yeah.
This is a very important topic. I wanted to touch actually on that later on, but now that we started the conversation like that, we have the parents here watching, and they got the kids, and for example, for yourself that you're an expert, and then for the coaches that might have some experience, if they go to the park, they might have an idea of what to do. But maybe for a mom or for a dad or for a brother, older sister that want to help the kids, maybe they don't know what to do. So it's really important to keep it, for example, as you say, as a competition, to keep the motivation high, and not maybe coach as a strict thing. Do this, do that. Don't
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Because even though I'm a coach, I'm still their parents, their father. The last thing I want to be doing is being really strict with them and really tough, and you have to do this, you have to do that. And we go down every day 3 o'clock to the park, and if they don't want to come for one day, then they don't come. I go by myself, or I take one of them there, and there's always one or two other kids up at the park, so there's always something to do, and if they don't want to come, well, then they don't come. It's very rare that they, miss a day or two here because they want to be there, and it's important that you don't force kids to do stuff. It's really important to get them out of the house and get them at the park, off the screens, off the lounge. And how you do that and how you motivate kids to want to do it is, I guess, the key. If you can find an activity or a little game or a competition that really engages them, then you'll find that they'll be probably saying, "Oh, what time are we going to the park today? When are we going? Can we go today?" Rather than you having to ask them. And once you start that going, and you have that little bit of element of competition, if there's a reward there, then there's always, for instance, with my two, yesterday we went down about lunchtime, and there's this really nice pie shop not far from where we live, and they like going there to get a meat pie, because it's really good. And they said, "Oh, can we have Bite Me for lunch?" Because it's called Bite Me. I said, "Well, I tell you what, if you beat me in this passing tournament, so it's those two against me. If you beat me in this passing tournament, I'll take you to Bite Me for lunch. But if I beat you, you two have to be my butler for the day, right? So I win, they have to be my butler. So I go home, they have to get me a drink from the fridge, little stuff like that." Which I
You
think
put the bar. You put the bar a little bit higher, Robbie. You're a
yeah,
former socceroo, professional player.
I've got to make sure I'm at least a chance of winning, but I give them a bit of a handicap, so they don't have to get as many points as what I get in the little competition. But things like that are really important to keep the kids engaged, so they want to practice and they want to learn and they want to get better. And with the SAP kids that we've got at Mount Cola, I had a juggling challenge for everybody when the lockdown started. I had a juggling challenge, and for each age group, I sort of set a target score that if they could get, I would get them a Rebel gift voucher.
Oh,
And that finishes at the end of August. So, and all they have to do is just get a video of them doing whatever score they can get, and then post it on the team app, and then they'll get their Rebel gift voucher. So when I started that, my boys were really keen to do it, and and they were probably able to juggle maybe 100 or 200, comfortably. And the target for their age group, the under 11s, was that they had to get 500.
500.
Yeah. And then so they got all excited about that. So they got to 500 pretty quickly. So they got the video posted, and then as soon as they posted their video, other kids were trying to do theirs, and and they get a bit of competition from the other kids now. And so now one of my boys, he's a little bit more competitive than the other one, and when he focuses on something and you give him a challenge, he becomes obsessed and wants to be the best, the best, the best. So now he's doing 3,500.
Oh my God. I
So
can't do that.
so he can't
No
stop.
way.
And then obviously the thing, you go down the park, and if he gets 1,000, he's like disappointed. And I said, well, that's why it's a record, 3,500, because it's hard to beat. If everyone could beat their record every day, then there'd be no more world records, because people would just break them every day. But yeah, and without that, and I know ball juggling, a lot of people look at ball juggling and they think, well, there's not many. I mean, ball juggling, how's that going to help you play football? But if you watch people who can juggle a ball, they've got good balance, they've got good coordination, and the thing with your first touch is that no matter how the ball comes to you in the game, it might come on a slight angle, the ball's in the air, and you need to bring it down with the top part of your foot. That is, when you're doing ball juggling, you're doing tens of thousands of those touches every time you juggle the ball. and you don't realise that your body's and your legs been in that position, and you know exactly how hard to let that ball hit your foot or to make it go wherever you want. So, so I think ball juggling is an underrated thing for kids, especially young kids. And you know, once you can do 100 ball juggles, the only difference between 100 and 1,000 is just your ability to concentrate, and that is another skill or another attribute, a mental attribute that kids who want to be good football players have to be able to do. They have to be able to concentrate for long periods of time. They have to be able to focus and have the mental strength and capacity to focus. So once they understand the rhythm and the coordination of the juggling, it then becomes a matter of, can I focus and have I got the concentration levels to take it to the next level, to get 500, to get 1,000, to get 2,000. And that's where you see the better ones being able to, you know, do that, because and those kids subconsciously then, when it comes to later years in life, when it comes to training and learning, they then have got some sort of grounding in being able to focus and concentrate to achieve a task, which requires those skills, that concentration and that mental capacity to be able to do that. So it's more challenging, and it's got hidden benefits that I guess parents probably don't understand, and a lot of rookie coaches probably don't understand either.
And maybe we, as you said, is underrated skill of practice. And for example, you actually had you were in that generation that played with Ronaldo, with Romario, with all these guys that were characterized by the all the stuff that they could do with the ball, and they had fun. And I remember a FIFA World Cup and also a Pepsi commercial where they just played with the ball and muck around and just enjoying doing juggle and stuff. And that's related to how they play football as well, in the way they were focused on the ball, as you said, for a long period of times, but also their touch was unbelievable. And not only keeping the ball in the after you, as you said, after you reach 200, 500, then it's about concentration. But what if you go out of your comfort zone and kick the ball and maybe try with your head? Maybe what if you kick it higher to control and get out of your comfort zone? That's something unbelievable. And you can see, all right, I'm not in, or I haven't been in that top level, for example, where yourself were, but in the NPL system, you can see players that can juggle 10 or 20 times senior players, or if they use the let's say weak foot, they also, and that comes from young ages. You can't learn how to juggle at the age of 20, 15 yet. So and that's something. Can we introduce that, for example, in a as a coach in a soccer training for the club? For example, if we're in the club, if we before starting a session or something, would that be something good to start? Or maybe
for sure. The SAP kids, we try to get them to do 500 touches before they start training. Now, not all the kids can juggle 500 times, but if they do 10 and drop it, well, then they keep going until they've got 500. So it might be 50 lots of 10, but they're getting the touches, and eventually they'll get more and more and better and better. But as you say, you can introduce different restrictions. Like you might say you've got to use your thighs, or you've got to have at least every 10, you've got to have at least one on your head. So then it gives more scope and more range of skill to actually, I've now got to get the ball a bit higher so I can get my head underneath it. So how hard do I have to kick the ball to get it high enough so I can hit it, but not too high that if I do hit it, it's going to go somewhere where I can't retrieve it. So that little skill about how hard to kick the ball, and I remember Ron Smith telling me once somebody asked him about a crossbar challenge. So can you hit the crossbar? And we get the ball down, bang, one or two, bang, you hit the crossbar. And somebody who doesn't know much about football came and asked him and said, well, so how hard do you have to kick it? And he said, I don't know. Because if you ask me, if I hit the crossbar from 18 yards out and I hit the crossbar and you said to me, how hard do I have to kick that to hit the crossbar? To be honest, I don't know how hard. It just comes from within, right? It depends if I hit it with the top part of my foot, depends if I hit it with the side of my foot. I couldn't tell you, even in a percentage way, of the hardest kick to the softest kick, what percentage would be. Because I've done it, or because whoever does it has done it that many times, it's just an inbuilt natural thing to know that that's the thing I've got to hit, and you just go through the motions and your body takes over. So as soon as you have to start thinking about, and this is where the really pro players in football, they don't think about the actions that they're actually doing. The actions that they're doing are an automatic thing that their body just takes over. Their thought process is probably 1 or 2 steps ahead. They know what they want to do in 3 or 4 seconds time. They can see the picture, but the movements of their body is not a thought process. It's an automated process. Until you can get yourself as young kids to be automated in your juggling, automated in your passing and your first touch. If I ping a ball to you from 30 meters and you can kill it with your first touch and it's there to play straight away, it's an automatic thing for you. You don't have to think about that, right? So it's that type of is where you need to be in terms of being a good player. That's where you need to get to, so you don't have to think about those mundane things, and you can start to think about things on another level about how you're going to beat your opposition and what you're going to do, rather than focusing on, okay, where's the ball and where did it go? It's over there, and your head's constantly down looking for it rather than looking at the big picture, because games are won by people who can see things, not by people who are looking constantly at the ball as to where is it and how do I have to pass it.
And Robbie, how can you, as a kid, how can you get these movements natural?
It's repetition, mate. It's repetition in firstly in isolated practice until it becomes a really good technique. So when you've got a kid whose technique is good and they don't need help, okay, oh no, you're not hitting the ball with the top part of your foot, or you're not hitting it with the side of your foot. When they don't need help with their technique anymore, then it becomes a matter of repetition in game-like situations, so that you can then perform that technique under pressure. So it doesn't become a skill until you can actually perform it under pressure and it holds up under pressure. So if you're a really good passer, but there's no pressure on you and you can hit a target 10 meters away, but all of a sudden I put you in a game and there's a defender coming at you and you panic and you're too worried about what the defender's doing, and you don't actually watch the contact of your foot hitting the ball and you don't see the target and you can't hit the target the same amount of times, then you haven't got to the point where you're able to perform that technique as a skill. So it's a skill once it's been able to be performed in a game under real pressure and under proper match-like situations. And
That's why.
when you talk about skill acquisition, you've got to develop your technique first, but the skill comes when it's actually performed under pressure in real game-like situations.
And this is something really good that you mentioned, because having you, for example, I have you as one of my instructors at the coaching course, and something that you really emphasize is it needs to be game realistic, and especially now that's where the curriculum is coming to, is to make it game realistic as much as possible. So can you fix stuff on the go, and can you fix stuff under a game X scenario, and then how the kids can, for example, in the sub acquisition program, which is where I'm at the moment. We're trying to recreate the technique and focus on the core skills, but how can we put these core skills into the game X scenario where the kids, because otherwise you're gonna become so good in dribbling the ball to con, but no, to when you have someone behind you running, and maybe you need to change direction and use your
Yep.
body to maybe protect the ball, it's totally different. Or
Yep.
hit the target 1,000 times, as you said, you're gonna become good and hitting a target. But if
Yep.
it's not under pressure in a realistic scenario, it's gonna be so hard.
Yeah. When do I hit the target? So, when they talk about players who can play that killer pass, so it's not the actual pass that is the killer part of it. It's the when. Okay, because when you think about a killer pass, especially one that's just played in between maybe two defenders along the ground for somebody to run onto when they finish first time, that pass in isolation might be just a 15, 20-meter pass along the ground at, 50% ball speed, which anybody can perform without anything around them, right? But it's been able to perform it at the right time when the defenders can't get it in between the two defenders, when your teammate is able to run onto that pass and it goes at the right weight so that they're meeting the ball at the right time for a first time finish. That's the difference between the technique of passing the ball along the ground and the skill of being able to perform it at the right time with the right weight in the right situation. But as you say, getting your kids to have as much as possible in game-like situations during the training sessions is obviously the best way that they can practice those techniques and bring out the skill. But the thing that you guys and all coaches need to be aware of is that if there's players struggling in that game situation where their technique is letting them down, they may need to step back out of that for 10 minutes and just work on some isolated stuff to improve the technique. So a smart coach will be able to recognize whether it was a lack of technique, proper technique, or whether it was we're just not quite, he just hasn't quite adapted to the pressure yet, but the technique is still holding up, but he's a little bit slow or doesn't recognize the cues. And then you keep them in that environment, because the more they work in that environment, the better they'll get in that environment. So you find usually with the SAP kids, the technique is not so much the issue. It's more about just getting enough repetition under real pressure, game-like situations, coming up with the better decisions, the right decision to make at the right time. Whereas the kids are maybe not at the level of the SAP kids. When you watch them play, it's more the technique breaking down, where they probably don't have quite the right technique because they haven't had quite enough instruction or enough repetition of that technique to then take it into a game. And then the game looks a lot messier than it does at a higher level, say a SAP level, because the technique's letting them down a lot earlier in all the decision making. It doesn't really get to the decision making part. It's more the technique which lets them down with their first touch of their passing.
For example, I've seen players that got the right idea and then the execution is not there. And maybe, or maybe they fantastic they wanted to do it with the right foot, but with the left foot, they really struggle with. So in that part with the weak foot, and especially for the kids that are watching right now, we always insist in use it. If the ball is for your left foot, but you're only comfortable with your right, even if you make the mistake, just strike with your left foot or strike with your weak foot. Doesn't matter. And then the repetition will give you that. Will make that movement feel that natural that you're gonna execute it better than what you're doing right now.
Yep. Yeah, I know. My boys are the same. Like, one's a right footer and one's a left footer. The lockdown started in end of June, and the way things are going, they probably won't play until next year anyway. So this 3, 4, 5, 6 months is a great time for kids at all ages and older players to really focus on fixing up areas of the game which need that repetition of improving that isolated technique. And working on your weak foot is a really good opportunity at this time so that when you get back to playing, you're a lot more comfortable on your non-dominant foot. And when I look at my two when they kick with their non-dominant foot, it's a completely different technique to their good foot. And the reason is because they've spent so much time with the good foot kicking that the muscle memory and everything flows and everything's done at the right time and everything. And when it goes to the non-good foot, non-dominant foot, it's like a baby trying to start to walk again. So when the boys say to me, "Oh, why can't I kick it the same?" And the answer is because you're not using the same technique. Your technique's different to what you do from the other foot. So what I try to say to the boys is, think about how you approach the ball, how you kick the ball, what part of the foot you kick the ball with, where your arms are, where your body is, how it feels. How do you feel when you kick the ball with your good foot? Right? How do you feel? Now, take that feeling and try and introduce all those different things, where your foot is, what part of the foot you use, and try and bring it into your non-good foot and see if you can get that same feeling. And if you can do that, well, then you'll have the same, if you like, similar technique for both feet, and you'll start to get better with because basically it's just your body getting into remembering the muscle patterns and the different, I guess, different side of your body. It's just the opposite side of your body. So that's something that
I realized. Sorry, Roy. Yeah, I've realized there are kids that want instant reward and they use the right foot and they put in the top corner and then they go with the left foot and it's just a soft shot. And then the patience of a kid comes to play a big role. Are they patient enough to work? Because it takes time, as you said, it's like starting walking again, and it takes time, commitment, and effort to develop the skill on your other foot.
That's right. So this is why if you're down at the park with your kid or your kids, you need to come up with some sort of reward, some sort of competition where the goal is not so far away that it becomes almost like disheartening. Okay. So it might be, okay, today we're just going to see if we can get you to strike the ball with your left foot so it finds the back of the net and you drive it really well. We just want to do that once. If we can do that once today, we've had a successful day. And then as the weeks go by, then you should be starting to get from one, building it up. Same way as you would with anything that you're trying to practice, any skill that you're trying to practice, there's got to be some sort of reward there so that it's within reach. If there's a reward or a challenge or a target that is not within reach, you have to be really mentally strong to keep going if there's not the reward there to get you to that sort of stage reward. So it's like with your coaching, you set little challenges. All right, so the first team that can get, if you get 5 passes, it's a goal, or 10 passes, it's a goal. Now, if that was 50 passes for a goal, and they kept getting to 25 and losing it, they'd all feel like, oh well, we've failed here. But you and I both know that get to 25 passes and you can kick the ball for 25 passes, your team's doing pretty well. They must have something good about them. So having those little targets along the way is really important to keep the motivation high for kids. And during this period, like you need to come up with your own ways within your own family. And it might be you don't have to do the dishes today, or you'll get an extra 20 minutes on your iPad this afternoon if you can give me half an hour of training down there where you achieve X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
It's basically based on achievable challenges, and at the same time the motivation, the reward that they're gonna get if they do it. Yeah, and that's the job as a coach, but also as a parent, that you're trying to motivate your kids to achieve all these little challenges, and at the same time working on something that
Mm.
even if you throw the ball to the kid and say do 50 juggles with your left foot, they might go, yeah, but what for?
Yeah.
Than if you actually put a carrot there.
Yeah. I mean, the hard thing for most parents, and there's probably a lot of parents listening tonight, is that,
Yeah, yeah.
and there might be some that have played football at a high level, and there might be some that have even coached at a decent level. But there'll be a lot of parents there listening tonight within your um, Ride Magic and your teams that probably haven't played a lot of football and haven't coached and don't know much about the game. So when they go down the park with their kids, it's difficult for them to try and fix the technique problems. It's difficult for them to try and say, no, well, okay, the reason why the ball went that way is because you're hitting it like this. You need to try it this way. Or so during these times, this is where maybe people like yourself or other coaches should provide maybe a little video or a little link to a video. So, right, have a look at the technique here. This is the type of thing that if you want to be able to strike a ball at goal, this is the sort of technique you need to have. You can get clips from Premier League and World Cups and all that sort of stuff, top players, and then get the parents to film their kids. Just take a little video. It's only got to be 30-second video of them just shooting or whatever it is that you wanted to work on. And then they can then send that to you or whoever else the other coaches are. They have a quick look. We're just down the park. Tell us if there's anything I need to help them with. Like, what advice can you give? And it might stand out to a coach with a good eye. It might stand out really easily, and it'll just be a quick, yeah, just do X, Y, and Z. Just get them through it. But if you're a parent and you're not sure how to help your kid down at the park, and you're not able to fix them, by letting them just continue making the same mistakes over and over, they're just going to get good at making the same mistake. They're not going to get better at fixing the technique properly. So yeah, and striking a ball and passing a ball is, people like myself and probably yourself, Serge, we take it for granted that the ball's I'm just going to kick it there and it's going to go to where I want it to go. And when you look at golfers, for example, professional golfers, I mean, how many balls would they have hit in their lives where they can get a club out and they can just hit it to where they want it to go, and they take it for granted? But that comes from years and years of repetition and watching the video. Okay, how did I hit it? What was my backswing like? Why did it go left? Why did it go right? And unless you know the answers to those things, it's hard for parents to help their kids. So there's a way, maybe the little video, just send it in to the coach and staff, have a quick look. But unless you're prepared to go through those stages and help your kids, it's going to be hard for them to improve.
Example, within the academy and also within in Magic, we've been doing some online sessions that is live sessions with the kids. For example, I perform the skill. I do the little, how to roll the ball using the
Yeah,
right, using the left in very little spaces. Some of them actually use the living room or the
yeah,
garage or something, and they practicing with us there, and they've been able to watch how we do it, and then they try and they make mistakes, of course. But it's something really important that you mentioned that I want to highlight there, Robbie, and it's maybe people need to start asking. I I ask you to please give us some part of your day to help to put this information out there, and you did it, and you're here talking to us and talking to the parents, and I think people need to ask because there is people that cares about the next generation of footballers that
yeah,
maybe if you don't know as a parent or if you don't know as a kid, the best thing you can do is just approach someone that you might think they know and ask. Simple as that.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, depending where you live and what park you go down to, there's probably somebody around there that you see kicking a ball and they look like they know what they're doing. There's no harm in asking. But if you're part of a club like yourselves, then we should be able to have some sort of mechanism where the parents, especially at this time where we can't get together as a team, where the parents can even send you a little video, just have a quick look and what do you think they need to do. to, you know.
True. And Robbie, just I know I want to respect your time too, but
Yeah, that's
people
okay.
wouldn't forgive me if I don't ask you stuff about where you play. How do you feel when you play on the top? And all these kids want to hear that from you. How is the feeling to represent Australia in yes, that's the top level.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it was just yesterday, but when I look at my birth certificate, I'm thinking, well, it wasn't just yesterday. But yeah, and it's funny. Some of those games, I remember playing in some of the games when I was playing for the Socceroos. Um, the game goes like in about 5 minutes. It feels like you start the game and it's supposed to go for 90 minutes. Before you know it, it's finished. Everything happens a lot quicker and goes a lot quicker. And before you know it, you're done. And it's like, well, where did that game go? And okay, we're on to the next one. So yeah, I've had some great times playing with the Socceroos, but also playing in the old National Soccer League, which maybe some of the parents may have followed. But yeah, they were really good times. But these days, obviously, I'm trying to help the next generation of kids and next generation of coaches on their journey to wherever they want to go, and I'm sort of trying to help in any way I can. So obviously running the courses and helping with the local club here, the SAP program with them. Yeah, whatever wherever that takes me after that, who knows. So those things are important. But yeah, looking back at my career with the Socceroos, it was a great time. Yeah.
Fantastic. We have a question here from one of our kids here. Is
Yeah.
Daniel Sims. He's connected right now. Daniel, do you want to do
Yeah.
it yourself or do you want me to ask Robbie?
There you go.
I'll ask it.
Speak up. Speak up.
I'll ask it. So my question was, how was it like playing soccer when you were playing compared to now?
Okay. You're talking about when I played in the National League or when I was playing as a kid?
Like in the professional leagues.
Okay. So when I was playing, in the old National League, we weren't as structured and we weren't as professionally run as it is now. Like you look at the A League now, they've all got proper clubs, proper full-time training environments. They got pretty much all of them have got full-time academies underneath their clubs. In our day, we trained maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Everyone pretty much had jobs that they did, during the day, and then went to training, and then they played on the weekend. But the difference in terms of the quality, we had some really good individual players within the National League. The games weren't as structured as what they are now, but there was a lot more flair and a lot more individual creativity in my era, which is something that I think is lacking a little bit from when I look at the A League these days, and I look at the way the players are playing, and we as coaches have to make sure we don't teach our players to become robots where they can't express themselves. So it's really important if you've got a kid in your team who's really good at coming up with stuff that is out of the ordinary, but may sometimes look a little bit unorthodox. You should try and keep encouraging them to perform stuff which is different, because it's the point of difference which down the track, which will be the difference between winning and losing games, people creating and not creating scoring opportunities. So we had more of those type of players back in the day, but mainly I think the professionalism is much better now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for asking, Daniel. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you very much. That was fantastic. I don't want to steal any more of your time.
No worries,
I
mate.
know you got your kids there, your family. I just wanted to thank you and appreciate that you spend this time with us, with the kids around. And yeah, if there is anything else you want to add, that would be fantastic.
No, that's all right, mate. Yeah. No dramas. Just wanted to say thanks for the opportunity to speak, to come and join you guys. It's always good that in these times you keep in touch with each other. It's really important that you do that. I know that getting out of the house and getting exercise and keep in touch with football is probably the most important thing that you guys can do, especially because you're in the New South Wales SAT. You can't afford to miss 6 months of training and then come back in 2022 and wonder why kids haven't improved. You've got to take personal responsibility at these times to work on your stuff that you normally wouldn't get a chance to work on. So take some personal responsibility for everybody. That includes the kids, because you'll never get a better chance to work on those things. Because normally you're training with your team, you haven't got time in the day to work on these skills that you can improve quite easily.
That's a very good message, Robbie, and thank you very much for this. I know the kids and parents here are having a lot of value out of what you're saying, and myself as well as a coach. And thank you.
No worries, Serge.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. If you got any questions, just pass them on to Serge, and I'm sure he'll find me. And if you need anything, I'm always available. All right, boys.
Definitely, yes, Robbie. Thank you very much, and have a good
worries.
night.
Have a good night, everyone.
See ya.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie.
See ya.
Bye.
See you later. Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for
Bye.
watching. Hope you enjoy it. See ya.